Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 1. I am Mutiara Finki.
I'm Hilda Arthamevia Putri.
I am Uswatun Hasanah. We are from 4PBA1 and we are going to explain about describing learners.
Okay, the first is about age. There are three of age differences. The first is young children. The second is adolescents. The third is adults. The first is young children. It's like preschool and elementary school. The second, adults, is like junior high school and senior high school. The third is adults. The adult is like college students. Okay, next. Young children usually respond to meaning even if they don't understand individual words. They learn indirectly, like games and observation. Generally display enthusiasm for learning and a curiosity about the world around them. They have a need for individual attention and approval from the teacher. Okay, next. Adolescents usually they might be disruptive in class. They feel not to mention problems they bring into class from outside school. Peer approval might be more important than the attention of the teacher. On the other hand, they have a great capacity to learn and a great potential for creativity. Next, adults. Usually they can engage with abstract thought. They have expectations about the learning process and may already have their own set patterns of learning. They have a clear understanding of why they are learning and what they want to get out of it. They have a whole range of life experiences to draw on.
Okay, the next is learner differences. The one is aptitude. In aptitude, problems with IQ tests that favor analytic learners. Disadvantage of IQ tests: self-fulfilling prophecies. Student may become the motivate. Good learner characteristic. According Niels Ayman, good learner characteristic is a tolerance of ambiguity, positive text orientation, ego involvement, high aspiration, goal orientation, and perseverance. According John Rubin and Irene Thompson, good learner characteristic is student who can find their own way, creativity, make intelligent guesses, make their own opportunities for practice, make errors work from them against them, and use collectual clues. Okay, next is learner styles. According to Tony Wright, there are 4 learner styles. First is enthusiast. Enthusiast is look at the teacher as a point of reference and is concerned with the goals of the learned groups. Next is oracular. Is also focus of the teacher but is more oriented toward the satisfaction of personal goals. Next is participator. Is then to concentrate on group goals and group solidarity. The last is rebel. Rebel is mainly concentrate with the satisfaction of his or her own goals. According Kate Willing, there are 4 learner styles. First is convergence, is sociality, independent, confident in their own abilities, analytical and pragmatic. Conformist is prefer to emphasize learner about language over learning to use it, dependent, happy to work in non-communicative classroom. Concrete learners is enjoy the social aspect of learning, like to learn from direct experience, enjoy games and group work in class. The last is communicative learners, is language use oriented, restart, interested in social interaction.
Okay, next about language levels. There are 6 language levels. The first is advanced, second is upper intermediate, the third is mid intermediate, the fourth is lower intermediate or pre-intermediate, the fifth is elementary, and the last is real beginner or fast beginner. Next, this is about individual variations. The first is about neurolinguistic or programming. Okay, or NLP. There are 5. The first is visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and the last is gustatory. Visual is like we look and see, and auditory is like we hear and listen, and then kinesthetic is like we feel externally, internally, or thought movements. Olfactory is like we smell things, and the last is gustatory is like we taste things. The second is about multiple intelligences theory or ME theory. There are 6. The first is musical, the second is verbal, the third is visual, the fourth is bodily, the fifth is logical, and the last is intrapersonal. Okay, next about what to do about individual differences. We can simply do observations or through more formal devices. We might ask students what their learning preferences are in questionnaires with items, or we might try to find out which preferred sensory system our students respond to. Okay, the last is about motivation. In motivation, there are 4 kinds of motivation. The first is positive, negative, extrinsic, and intrinsic. Positive is motivation towards a goal. Negative, motivation away from something. Extrinsic is someone wants you to do it. Intrinsic is you want to do it. Okay, the example of positive, like I really want to read this report. We can see I really want to read this report. Yeah, this is only this one creates positive, sustainable motivation. While write this report and you get a bonus, read this report or you're fired, and I really don't want to read this report, that's 3 don't work. If write this report and you get a bonus is example of extrinsic. Write this report or you're fired, example is extrinsic. I really want to read this report is example of intrinsic. I really don't want to read this report is example of intrinsic. So, thank you. Oh yeah, okay, the last. Sources of motivation. As I know, sources of motivation, there are 4. The first is the society we live in. The second is the teacher. The third is significant others. And the fourth is the method. Okay. The society we live in It's like outside any classroom, there are attitudes to language learning and the English language in particular. While significant others is like apart from the culture of the world around students, their attitude to language learning will be greatly affected by the influence of people who are close to them. And then the teacher is clearly a major factor in the continuance of a student's motivation is the teacher. And the last is the method. The method, it is vital that both teacher and students have some confidence in the way teaching and learning take place. Thank you. Thanks.